Republican senator from Arkansas, a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Tom Cotton, welcome back, Senator. Good to have you.
Thanks, Shannon. It's good to be on with you.
Okay, so a statement from the Biden campaign says this: these documents have absolutely nothing to do with any FBI investigation, and they confirm that all normal procedures were followed. Any suggestion otherwise is a flat-out lie. What do the documents say to you?
Well, it sounds like they're very worried about the documents that were released today. I find it very troubling that so many political officials in the final days of the Obama administration were asking the National Security Agency to unmask Michael Flynn's name in what was an intercept of a foreign official. Again, these are not just intelligence officials, career professionals. You have Joe Biden, just 8 days before Donald Trump was taking office, unmasking the name of his incoming national security advisor. And lo and behold, just a few days later, it began to leak to the Washington Post. You had senior political officials at the Department of Treasury. You have some major Obama fundraisers who were ambassadors all asking for this. Mike Flynn's name was in the hands of all of these political appointees in the final days of the Obama administration. It turned up in the news, which gave the FBI pretext to go interview him with inappropriate approaches that we now know was used to set up and frame Mike Flynn.
Well, the Wall Street Journal reporting about this has a piece that says this: unmasking U.S. identities in intelligence reports is a fairly routine process that occurs thousands of times annually. Then they quote, "You can't do your job without it," said Michael Morell, the former acting director of the CIA during the Obama administration. They say this is routinely done in the course of business. Ambassador Samantha Power was asked repeatedly by Trey Gowdy, then Congressman Gowdy, about the unmasking and said, hey, I needed to know what I was reading to have context. This is something that everyone did, and we weren't trying to hide it.
Yeah, I mean, give me a break. Samantha Power was a Obama campaign official who was up at the United Nations. She's not a career professional intelligence officer the way Michael Morell was. What's not unusual, or what is unusual, though, is the names of those unmasked individuals appearing in the New York Times and the Washington Post, on CNN, and then the FBI using that information to conduct a pretextual interview that was designed to drum an Obama adversary out of office just a few days later and to disrupt the peaceful transition of power. Look, those leaks didn't come from nowhere. That turtle didn't get on the fence post by itself. One of the people who unmasked Michael Flynn's name in the last days of the Obama administration, if not more than one of those persons, was leaking like a sieve to the media to frame Mike Flynn and to disrupt the peaceful transition of power.
Well, despite the DOJ's decision to ask that the case against Flynn be dismissed, the judge, federal judge Emmett Sullivan, has now called in a retired judge to write the opposing brief about why that shouldn't happen, and also to examine whether there has been perjury. In his order today, he said this. He's appointed retired Judge John Gleeson, to file this brief. He says Judge Gleeson should address whether the court should issue an order to show cause why Mr. Flynn should not be held in criminal contempt for perjury. You're a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. Is that your understanding of generally how this works and what a judge would do looking for potentially a new charge against a defendant when the DOJ has said dismiss the case altogether?
Well, Shannon, I'll say this. I've been clean for 15 years when it comes to practicing law, so you and your audience may not want to take my legal advice. But I would simply say that when the prosecutors file a motion to drop the case, and the judge intervenes and says, no, he wants someone to argue the case, I don't even understand what the upshot is going to be. I mean, even if a retired judge writes a brief that Judge Sullivan finds persuasive, what's he going to do? Order the Department of Justice to prosecute again? That's just not the way our criminal justice system is supposed to work. Look, Mike Flynn has gone through a lot over the last 3 years, stuff that he should have never faced to begin with. He is a highly decorated war veteran. The Department of Justice took the right steps to dismiss this case. Judge Sullivan should grant that motion to dismiss and let Mike Flynn and his family get back to their lives.
All right, before we let you go, I want to ask about China, as there are some new revelations. A Newsweek piece says that they have seen a CIA report, and they say this: the CIA report, the contents of which were confirmed in Newsweek by 2 U.S. intel officials, said China threatened the WHO that the country would stop cooperating with the agency's coronavirus investigation if the organization declared a global health emergency. Apparently, that was in January, as there were some precious weeks that went by before the world knew what we were facing.
Well, Shannon, I'm not able to comment on specific intelligence reports, but I can say that it's obvious that China was pressuring the World Health Organization. China knew, just like the World Health Organization knew from China, that this virus was transmissible from persons to person. The WHO, in fact, had been tipped off by Taiwan, advice that they ignored because it was politically inconvenient for Beijing. But there's no doubt that Xi Jinping pressured and continues to pressure the WHO to take China's side, to carry China's water, and to spin this pandemic in a way that's favorable to China, when in fact China unleashed this plague on the world.
Well, we know there are calls for investigations from Capitol Hill to international bodies, and we'll see if China is held accountable or the WHO, and if either pays a price. Senator Cotton, great to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.